Democratic presidential candidate Bernie Sanders is under fire for remarks last night on abortion, birth control, and keeping the population down in the face of climate change.
Especially in poor countries around the world, where women do not necessarily want to have large numbers of babies, and where they can have the opportunity through birth control to control the number of kids they have, something I very, very strongly support.
The Vermont senator's remarks were in response to a question about climate change at a CNN town hall summit. Well, joining us now is Charmaine Yoest, the vice president for the Institute of Family, Community, and Opportunity at the Heritage Foundation. Charmaine, thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Charmaine, Sanders was responding to a question about the world's population growth, yet part of his answer involved his opposition to the Mexico City policy, which prevents U.S. taxpayer dollars from funding abortions overseas. What do you and others in the pro-life movement think he was trying to say in his answer?
It really was kind of a mishmash of political correctness and pandering to the abortion lobby. And I thought, I don't know about you, but it was so chilling, that moment when he kind of gave his canned pro-abortion speech, and then the audience broke into applause at the idea of killing babies in order to keep population down. Which it's a really ludicrous idea that's been floating around out there for decades. We've had these alarmists on population control who've had various predictions about, decreases in the Earth's resources. That it's a very limited mindset that sees human beings as a drain on the Earth's resources, instead of having a proactive growth mindset that sees human beings as resources, that promotes growth. And what we're really seeing worldwide now today is countries that are wrestling with a birth dearth, countries that are trying to create economic incentives to have more children instead of to have fewer.
Especially over in Europe with the population decline there.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Were you surprised to see a presidential candidate make these remarks?
Not in the slightest. It's really, really tragic and sad to see on the Democratic side of the slate that there is such a stranglehold of the abortion lobby on that party that there's this orthodoxy that they can't seem to break through. If you really wanted to see somebody radically come in and shake up the race, it'd be awesome to see a pro-life person run in the Democratic Party. But right now, doesn't seem to be possible.
Sanders' comments sparked outrage from conservatives. Even one CNN host last night said Sanders was basically supporting eugenics.
Right. Was
he, or is this maybe even more nuanced?
I'm always a big fan of nuance, but he was pretty ham-handed about it. They asked him about climate change and population control, and he just went straight for the talking points on women and abortion, and it was pretty brutal.
All right.
How big of a role do you think abortion is going to play in the 2020 election?
I think it's going to be very big, and thank you for that question. I think that's an excellent question, because sometimes people, they want to muddy the waters and make it seem like there's not that big a difference on policy issues. But in terms of the life issue, it's a very stark difference. There is a stranglehold on the Democratic side. Straight down the line, every single one of the people on that stage in the upcoming Democratic debate is going to be very rabidly pro-choice. Contrasting with the Republican Party, where President Trump has been very faithful to his promises in the 2016 campaign to be pro-life and advance pro-life measures.
Well,
all right.
Thank you so much for joining us today and for your insight.
Thank you.